Hello friends and welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by BetDSI. I'm your host Tom Downey. Time for a little Cowboys Week 3 preview versus the Seattle Seahawks. Now the Cowboys in this one, folks, are actually the underdogs. Seattle is a 1.5 point favorite, which makes sense when you do consider that Seattle is at home. That's going to be about 3 points from a neutral site and then 3 again from being on the road. So don't panic that you see the Cowboys as the underdog. You often don't see that many home dogs in the NFL unless a team is really, really bad, which frankly, kind of think Seattle might be in there. Now, we'll talk more about this later on in the show. I want to mention this very briefly as well. The Cowboys have the second most sacks in the NFL. The Seahawks have allowed the most sacks in the NFL. I like that matchup quite a bit. Now, I do want to see your guys' score predictions in the comments section. If you want to be eligible to win $25 from me if you get the correct pick, of course, the score on the team that wins, DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. Again, if you get the score right and you DM me, I don't have to juggle between the Facebook and the YouTube comment section. Just DM it to me. Winner gets $25. We'll come back to that, of course, later on in the show. In the meantime, injury report for the Cowboys. Randy Gregory. Concussion, I am going to list him as probable. He's been a full participant in practice so far this week. That's a good sign for him. Again, there is no actual probable designation anymore in the NFL, which is stupid, but Gregory's going to be fine to go. Daniel Ross, Kevon Frazier, they're going to be just fine as well. Frazier's played the past 2 weeks. He's going to be just fine. Xavier Woods, I'll list him as questionable, but I'd be surprised if he didn't play. I think that Woods is back from his hamstring injury. The Cowboys did cut Tyree Robinson. I think Woods will be A-okay to go this week. Other guys, though, maybe not quite as certain. Travis Frederick, he is still out with his illness. Sean Lee has done a little bit with his hamstring injury. I think he'll be okay to go. It's all about managing it and not overworking him in the practice because he doesn't need practice. He's Sean Lee. But do monitor that throughout the week. I'm pretty sure he'll play. We might be on a little bit of a pitch count given the way LVE and Jalen Smith played when Lee was out. Malik Collins is a firm questionable with his knee injury. Didn't practice on Wednesday, didn't practice on Thursday, so we'll see how he goes the rest of the week, but it is a bit of a concern. And then Dayton Jones is back practicing, was a full participant actually on Wednesday practice, which was a big surprise to me. It's a good sign for Jones, and especially with Collins now also dealing with his own injury. Folks, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Put down $100, they'll give you $120 for free for a grand total of $220 to bet with on BetDSI. That's chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys120. All right, now time for some of my keys to the game this week. First up, you got to get Zeke on track. Now, historically, Week 1, Week 2 haven't been the best weeks for Zeke Elliott. But from Week 3 and beyond, oh boy, he is a much better player. 65 to 113 in terms of rushing yards based on Week 1 and Week 2 versus Week 3 and beyond. And oh, by the way, the Seahawks giving up 116 yards on the ground. That's a good matchup for the Cowboys. So, folks, how many rushing yards will Zeke have against the Seahawks? Let me know in the comments section. I'll put the over-under to start at 105. I think you're all going to take the over, but I'll start at 105 given the way that Zeke is and the offensive line haven't quite gotten it going yet, but Zeke himself does think that the team is close. All right, next up, you got to stay creative on offense. That's been an issue so far for the Dallas Cowboys, and we saw it in the first quarter against the Giants because Linehan had a really good game script and it worked really, really well. And the offense was better overall in Week 2, but the creativity and the play calling in general definitely regressed, namely in the second and third quarters. So you got to make sure you're still getting Tavon Austin involved a little bit. Got to make sure you're throwing it on first down to keep the defense off balance. So we'll see how Linehan fares against what I think is a not very good Seahawks defense, especially if they still deal with some injuries at linebacker. All right, next up, more efficient play from Dak Prescott. I know the yards weren't there in Week 2. Honestly, I don't even really care that much. Dak was good. He did miss Cole Beasley on one throw and probably shouldn't have thrown it at all, and did miss Rico Gathers on one throw in the end zone. But if you tell the Cowboys, hey, Dak's not going to turn the ball over, he's going to give you over 200 yards of offense each week, he's going to complete a good percentage of his passes, and you're going to win, of course they're going to take that. The Cowboys want to run the football. I think they would rather have Dak throw for under 200 than over 400 because that means that they probably actually lost the game. So Dak was not perfect, but if he keeps being efficient, the Cowboys will be just fine on offense. Here's a big one. you got to contain Russell Wilson. Now, as I mentioned, the Cowboys, second most sacks, Seahawks, most sacks allowed. That's a good matchup. But as we saw with Cam Newton, especially on that read option, Wilson is dangerous with his legs. You cannot let him run around and do all this crazy stuff and get out of structure and make big plays. You can get pressure on Wilson, but if you're going to get pressure, you got to make sure you keep contained. Just have Jalen Smith or Sean Lee spy Wilson. It'll be a much more effective defense, even if you have to spare somebody overall. So contain Russell Wilson, in reality, is your number one defensive key if you're the Dallas Cowboys. One more. How about you force some turnovers this time? You have just 2 forced all year, and you're one of 4 teams that hasn't picked off a single pass. Russell Wilson has thrown 3 of them already this season. The defense, in terms of yards per game, points allowed, has been really, really good. It's been a great defense so far. I got to see some more takeaways. If you want to be a top 5 defense, you got to force turnovers. So far, the Cowboys haven't done that in the way that you would have liked to see them do thus far. Folks, subscribe to our new Cowboys Report YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. We're trying to get to 5K subscribers. Already past that 3K mark, but 5K is the next big one. It's got all of our great Cowboys coverage all in one spot. So subscribe today. And a big thank you to all of you who already have. All right, folks, on now to the depth chart for the Cowboys before they play Week 3 against the Seahawks. And by the way, this is the projected, i.e. the more accurate one, not the one on the Cowboys' own website that lists Dayton Jones as a starting defensive tackle and Crawford as a defensive end still. No surprise at quarterback, right? Dak's your number 1, and then it's Rush, and then it's Mike White, who hasn't even been active so far this season. Next up is the halfbacks, and again, no changes so far this year. Zeke Elliott, Rod Smith, Jameis Olawale. Those are your 3 guys. You got Jordan Chun and Bo Scarborough also on the practice squad. Now the receivers, where things have changed. Cole Beasley, Allen Hurns, Deontay Thompson, and Michael Gallup. Based on snap count, it's clearly Beasley and Hurns, and then Thompson and Gallup are actually kind of 50-50 split right now, at least among those 2. Tavon Austin's there. Terrence Williams is there as well. I will list Bryce Butler as the number 7 for now because he only just got back to the team. He might not even be active in Week 3. It wouldn't be a big surprise to me. So don't bank on Butler making an instant impact immediately, even though he can still make some plays as we saw last year. So, folks, who will lead the Cowboys in receiving yards versus Seahawks? I will go with Cole Beasley. I think he's the best receiver on the Cowboys. Did not lead them in Week 2, but I think he still put up pretty good numbers overall throughout the season. He looked a little bit more like 2016 Cole, not 2017 Cole Beasley, and that is a very, very good thing if you're the Dallas Cowboys. Let me know in the comment section. All right, tight ends. No changes after last week. Jeff Swain, Blake Jarwin, and then Rios. And then Dalton Schultz was inactive. I would assume that's the case again this week because Rico should have had a touchdown catch because Dak just missed him. So with that in mind, will Rico get that TD catch this week against the Seattle Seahawks? Type 3 for yes, type 4 for no. I bet that most of you are going to type 3, but we'll see. The Seahawks have a really good safety by the name of Earl Thomas, who I think can slow down or even shut down Rico, despite Rico having quite a bit of size on Earl Thomas and pretty much any player he goes up against. All right, time for the offensive line. Starting 5, staying the same. Tyron, Sewell, Joe Looney, Zach Martin, Lael Collins. Connor Williams was way better in Week 2. Now I need Lael Collins to take a similar leap forward. He's been a little iffy so far this year. Not like bad by any means, but he hasn't been a top-tier right tackle, which he should be, and it's how the Cowboys are paying him as well. All right, folks, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI. Go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Cowboys120 for a 120% deposit bonus. So you put down $100 to bet with, they'll give you a $120 for free for a grand total of $220 to bet with. You're literally playing with house money on BetDSI if you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Cowboys120. All right, on to the defensive line, and you see a lot of asterisks there. There are some injuries. Dayton Jones is kind of banged up with a knee. So is Malik Collins. And Gregory and Charlton, I bet you will rotate again this week. You'll see some of Dorrance Armstrong too. And all in all, you'll see a rotation on the defensive line. But as you mentioned, we'll dive more into depth here in just a minute. I like the matchup this week for the Cowboys defensive line against the Seattle Seahawks offense. All right, on to linebacker. And this could alter if Sean Lee isn't able to go. In that case, on nickel sets, you're going to see Jalen Smith and LVE almost exclusively. Now, Damian Wilson didn't play that much. LVE played quite a bit. So at linebacker in particular, don't get too worked up about the backups and who's the starter, beyond the fact that in nickel sets, it's going to go Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, and then probably Joe Thomas. And then in base sets, they'll put a Wilson or an LVE at the Sam linebacker spot. All right, on to the defensive back. And again, there was a change here because Tyree Robinson was cut. Xavier Woods, I think, will start this week. That means Jeff Heath will slide back down to strong safety. Kevon Frazier becomes your number 3, and Eram Campbell becomes one of your go-to backup defensive linemen. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the Cowboys have not had an interception this year. Will it happen this week? Type 1 for yes or type 0 for no because, well, the Cowboys aren't going to get one at all. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section. One last depth chart here. That is the special teams unit. Jeff Heath, your backup kicker, by the way. Brett Maher was much, much better this week for the Cowboys. Very happy about that, even though he's still on my probation. Deontay Thompson and Tavon Austin, those two guys will remain your return men until one of them gets hurt, or I guess even potentially gets cut, but that doesn't seem all that likely at this point. Folks, if you guys like the shirt that I'm wearing, get one of your own at comfortable.af. You will not own a more comfortable shirt than a Mizzen and Main one, made out of performance wear fabrics. They're made in America. They are perfect for America's team, and the URL does check out. They are indeed comfortable as F. All right, time now for my key matchup. As I hinted at throughout the show, it's the Cowboys defensive line. It's a good one. DeMarcus Lawrence, Malik Collins, Taco, Randy, Antoine Woods, Tyron Crawford, Dorrance Armstrong, all these guys against the Seahawks' bad offensive line. And Seahawks fans, you tried to tell me this year would be different. It hasn't been so far. I like Dwayne Brown. I like Britt. Jermaine Ifedi is a disaster at right tackle. DJ Fluker couldn't make the Giants' offense line. We saw what the Cowboys just did to them. And Ethan Posick, he's still kind of a work in progress. So guess what? You get DeMarcus Lawrence versus Jermaine Ifedi. Sign me up. Hank is going to torch the Seahawks offensive line this week. Frankly, I think the Cowboys' entire defensive line is going to. So, folks, how many sacks will the Cowboys have this week? I'll put the over-under at 5. It will be more than 5, less than 5. Let me know in the comments section. All right, folks, as I said at the top of the show, if you predict the score of Cowboys versus Seahawks, we'll give you $25. Now, it has to be the correct pick, and there's only one winner, so you better get it in quickly. DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. I'll be sure to respond to let you know that I've got you entered and registered to win this week. So again, if you predict the correct score of Cowboys versus Seahawks, we'll give you $25. Only one winner though, and it's first come, first serve. So you better DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. So again, the Seahawks are actually favored in this one by 1.5 points, despite not having a win this season. Now, I'm 1-for-1 this year in my picks against the spread for the Dallas Cowboys. I failed badly on week 1. Got it right on week 2. So for week 3, I got the Cowboys again. I think Dallas wins 20-10, and Lena agrees, but she has the Cowboys winning 24-13. Now, I think the Cowboys cover the spread either way because, of course, I think they're going to win. I know it's a tough road game. I just don't think Seattle is actually very good at football right now. So sign me up for the Cowboys in what I think will be a low-scoring game. All right, folks, we will see you guys on Sunday for a little Cowboys-Seahawks watch party.